I'm not thinking about what happened. I'm thinking for my future and my business for now.
Situation report on NSAS, focus on all states in Nigeria.
No one will escape justice once the reports of these panels are out.
Call for peace resonates in various parts of the country. Nigerian governors take more proactive steps to end violence and maintain peace. A warm evening to you all on the occasion of Eid al-Maulud. I'm Joseph Johnson in Abuja, and this is NTA Network News. Kemi Oshin joins us from Ibadan. The Minister of State Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Zubairu Dada, has commended the youth of Niger State for their peaceful conduct during the recent NSAS protests. The minister was speaking at the Niger State stakeholders meeting convened to address issues pertaining to youth in the state. Fatima Usman reports.
The stakeholders meeting is sequel to the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari in the face of ongoing incidents of looting and rioting across the country. The meeting had in attendance Niger State Executive Council members, legislators at federal and state levels, security operatives, political civil organizations, youth groups, as well as representatives of religious and traditional institutions. The meeting was aimed at reflecting happenings in the country and fashioning out strategies to forestall reoccurrence.
I want to make this passionate appeal to especially our religious leaders and in fact to all of us to please, in the name of God that we worship, don't bring religion into some of these matters. Because this is how it all starts. When we start using issues of religion, we start using issues of ethnicity, then clearly we go on the road to Rwanda.
The platform was also an opportunity for stakeholders to highlight challenges facing the state and proffering solutions.
I think it would be wise on this government to reduce the burden of the infrastructural deficit by commissioning hyperloop.
We've tried to see how we can domesticate our own problems here. The issue of bad roads, the insecurity, the issue with AEDC that we've been battling over a long period of time.
Of what is happening here today, please, we want you to add it together. All. I'm present to Mr. President. Niger State has spoken. They have spoken loud and clear.
After all said and done, the minister reckoned with the people of the state and promised to do the needful by conveying their messages to the president.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commended the decorum exhibited by youth in Borno State in the wake of recent widespread protests across the country and further advised them to maintain the peaceful conduct of brotherhood and communal harmony to restore the lost glory of the state as a center of peace. Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development Mustafa Baba Shihuri extended the commendation to the youth in Borno during his engagement with critical stakeholders of Borno State as directed by the President.
Engagement with critical stakeholders by the Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development Mustafa Baba Shihuri follows the presidential directive to members of the Federal Executive Council to return to their various states to form platforms to rob mines as part of stabilization efforts of the federal government for enhanced peace and security. Minister of State for Agriculture and Rural Development, who dwell extensively on the stride made by the present administration in the areas of developmental projects and youth empowerment initiatives, re-echoed call by President Muhammadu Buhari on the youth to embrace peace and exploit the abundant opportunities to become gainfully employed so as to contribute their quota in nation building and development.
And other opinion leaders to use this gathering to build order and sustain the culture of preaching, tolerance, understanding, and peaceful coexistence.
Borno State Governor Professor Bagana Umar Azulum disclosed that based on a security report received on infiltration of the state by allegedly hired miscreants to incite youth to protest against the military, his administration has directed security agencies to investigate and fish out the said hoodlums for the law to take its course against them and their alleged sponsors.
The dream of every Borno citizen is to achieve the peace that eluded us for nearly 11 years as a result of insurgency.
The governor equally commended the efforts of the security agencies for displaying gallantry and sacrifice in the fight against insurgents and restoration of peace to the state. Shehu Borno Awakari Bunumar Garba El Kanemi assured that the traditional institution will continue to play its role in maintaining peaceful coexistence. In Maiduguri, Muhammad Gwani, NTA News.
And the youth in Benue State have been called upon to utilize the opportunities presented by the social programs of the present administration aimed at improving their lives. Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Senator George Akume, said this at an interactive session with a cross-section of youth in Benue State held in Makudi. Bem Aya has more.
The interactive session between the Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Senator George Akume, and the youths of Benue State comes on the heels of mass protests by youths across Nigeria, which later degenerated into violence, looting, and vandalism. Senator Akume, who described the welfare programs of the Buhari-led administration as one of the most ambitious in the history of the country, advised the youths to key into them in order to create wealth for themselves and develop the economy. He highlighted some of the programs to include the Nigeria Youth Investment Fund, the Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, through which over 36 billion naira has already been disbursed, recruitment of 774,000 young people across the country.
The Anchor Borrowers Program from the CBN under Muhammadu Buhari has made available more than 200 billion naira in funding to more than 1.5 million smallholder farmers of 16 different commodities.
Some of the youth leaders who responded commended the federal government for the programs which are aimed at improving their standard of living and pledged their resolve to utilize the knowledge gained from the interactive session positively. Commended youths in the state for conducting themselves in a peaceful manner. In Makudi, Bem Hanya, NTA News.
Also, President Muhammadu Buhari is urging the youth and the vulnerable groups in Edo State to take advantage of the economic programs made available by the federal government to enhance their well-being. This was the message the Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, Clement Agba, took to the palace of the Oba of Benin. Goodluck Inaini reports.
Is in Edo State on the directive of the presidency in response to NSA's protest. According to the minister, government has accepted the 5-point demand by the youth, just as the president has also signed the Police Act 2020 into law. The president envoy urged the youth in the state to take advantage of the 75 billion naira National Youth Fund and other openings provided.
Government has embarked on several people-oriented programs so as to create jobs and reduce poverty in line with this administration's desire to take 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. And Nigerian youths have always been the beacon of hope and represent the very best of us.
Oba Ewaye II pledged the support of the palace.
Also appeal to the youth to give government a chance to implement these programs. We will do our best to support the state government to carry out some of the programs, both the state programs and the federal government programs, to ensure peace and welfare of the youth.
The minister is also expected to meet separately with the state governor and other stakeholders in Benin. Good luck in NTA News.
Now, weeks of protests, violent outbreaks, vandalism and wanton looting of public and private property across states of the Federation have definitely left marks, mostly on general existence. To get a sense of how some states are currently faring in the wake of deliberate attempts by the authorities to restore order, let's take a quick roundup from our reporters on the ground in some of the states more affected by the NSAS protest and vandalism.
I am Paul Abel in Calabar, where the 24-hour curfew imposed by the Cross River State government has been relaxed to 16 hours, beginning from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. daily. Here in Calabar, the capital of Cross River State, the lives of residents are gradually returning to normal as those who were caught in the web of the hoodlums, either private or public concerns, are either sulking or gradually putting their lives back together.
Abolade Salami. Lagos State is gradually returning to its usual hustle and bustle as most business enterprises are returning back to business operation, although some still operating a skeletal activity. The roads of Lagos are getting busy again as most vehicles have returned to the road, causing gridlock in most places in the state. The presence of security personnel are not as heavy as we usually have it on major streets of Lagos, even though we had pockets of security presence in most parts of the state. Peace is returned to the center of excellence as everyone now walks around without harboring fear in their minds.
This is one of the landmarks that makes Kano the economic powerhouse of northern Nigeria and one of the fastest growing economics in West African Sahel region. As you can see, everybody is bustling and hustling with business activities, putting the demonstration that almost distracted them behind.
I am presently at the Okigwe Road of Owerri, the Imo State capital. And with regards to the aftermath of the NSAS protests here in the state, the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodimma, based on intelligence report available to him, has stated that the hoodlums who hijacked the peaceful protests leading to the burning of a police station and destruction of public and private properties in the state were sponsored and not from the state. Generally speaking, it's fair to say, to a large extent, the state is calm. Residents are more confident and going about their businesses.
My name is Ifeanyi Ezumba. This is UTC, a popular business hub in the Federal Capital Territory. It is calm and people are going about their normal business. At Area 1, the environment is calm and peaceful. At the Gwagwalada Area Council, the environment is also calm, with heavy security presence and people going about their normal business.
Our correspondent there rounding up on the aftermath of NSAS protests in some states. In the meantime, the healing process has begun in Lagos as the state government moves to compensate families of security personnel who lost their lives in pockets of NSAS violence. To this end, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has established a scholarship scheme for children of slain policemen. Nosa Osla reports that the academic grant extends to tertiary level.
The State Police Command bore huge loss in personnel, armory and properties in the violence. 29 divisional police stations and 17 police posts were razed by hoodlums disguising as protesters. Also, 6 police officers were lynched, 36 critically injured, while 71 police operational vehicles were touched. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu said the statutory duties of the police could not be wished away because of the actions of a few bad eggs, noting that the impact of the police officers' absence on the roads was generally felt by residents.
The first request that he had said is that the state government should foot all the hospital bills of the police personnel that sustains injury. Consider it done, we will foot all the bills that you might have incurred, that you are currently incurring, just go through your DPO or your area commander and compile them and send them to the Commissioner of Police. We will deal with them immediately.
Governor Sanwo-Olu promised that police officers serving in Lagos are also to get life insurance from the state government. In spite of the loss, the police said they remained undeterred in performing their constitutional duties. In Lagos, Nosa, Osula, NTA News.
Rivers State government has condoled with the families of police officers and soldiers who lost their lives in the mayhem perpetrated by hoodlums and alleged IPOB members who hijacked the nationwide NSAS protests against police brutality. Ogedinyekwe reports that the governor promised to rebuild all police stations destroyed during the attack.
Wike led top government functionaries to commiserate with the River State Command of the Nigerian Police over the demise of some of their men from the mayhem perpetrated by alleged members of Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, in Oyebo Council area during the hijacked NSAS protests. Governor Wike pledged to support the police to ensure those behind the dastardly acts are brought to book. He also commiserated with families of those who lost their breadwinners and officers and men who lost their property to the attack.
Every family of the soldiers, of the police that died, the Rivers State government will give that family 20 million naira at least to help them to start over.
State Commissioner for Police Joseph Mukan says the governor's visit has rekindled their morale, assuring they will continue to perform their constitutional mandate. He thanked the governor for the support to the bereaved families.
The spirit behind what the state and what you have demonstrated now will give the family another new lease of life.
The governor had earlier inspected a guard of honor in Port Harcourt. Ogedinyekwe, NTA News.
Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak of Kwara State says security agencies are key to maintaining law and order and must not be collectively condemned because of a few bad eggs among them. He spoke when he led the 3 senators from Kwara State on a solidarity visit to the police headquarters in Ilorin to appreciate their role in maintaining peace in the state. Raliat Ibrahim reports.
Accompanied by Senators Yahaya Oloriegbe representing Kwara Central, Sadiq Umar, Kwara North, and Lola Ashiru, Kwara South, Governor Abdurrahman Abdurazak appealed to Nigerians never to turn their backs on the police or abandon them and other security agencies. Abdurazak said the events of the past few weeks, especially the NSAS protests, should not be framed in a way that might leave officers and men of the police demoralized.
The aim is to disunite and end Nigeria. So let us wake up to the reality. And it started at NSAS. They tried to do end Buhari and diverted to vandalism, stealing, and then they moved to palliatives, then they moved to custom warehouses. Where next will they move into? But I'm glad that security agents are now ahead of them.
The 3 senators also took turns to commend the work of security agencies, just as they expressed suspicion that deliberate attempts to demonize and demoralize them might have been orchestrated to provoke anarchy in the land. The governor had earlier held a security meeting during which he observed that certain interests later hijacked the peaceful NSAS protests to push for anarchy. The council discussed the security situation in the state and observed it was back to normal. As a result, curfew in Ilorin Metropolis has been reviewed with movement restrictions now between 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Raliat Ibrahim, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has sent warm felicitations to the founder of Afe Babalola University, Are Afe Babalola, on his 91st birthday, October 30, 2020, joining friends and family members to celebrate with the educationist, agriculturist and legal luminary. In a statement, President Buhari congratulates Babalola for another year added to his life and more opportunities to give and show that sharing brings more joy than acquisition, while commending his antecedents in health, education and legal career, training more than 2,500 lawyers in the country, with 15 already recognized as senior advocates of Nigeria. The President salutes the educationist for his high sense of patriotism, visionary leadership and penchant for always channeling his energy and resources into projects that directly impact the life of Nigerians and providing wise counsels to leaders in both the private and public sectors on best ways to move the country forward. As the renowned lawyer and philanthropist turns 91, President Buhari prays that the Almighty God will bless him and his family and grant him longer life to keep serving the nation and humanity. Well, do stay with us here on NTA Network News. We have plenty more for you just after these messages.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable.
The private sector and other stakeholders should collaborate with their government in their reconstruction and recovery process instead of dwelling on the ruins of the past to enable the nation surmount hurdles posed by the just ended crisis that trailed NSAS protest. Amaka O has details.
There is a saying that there is no perfect society, as nations of the world often experience one form of unrest or the other at various times, just like the pockets of upheavals experienced recently across the country.
We should be in the mood of building a new nation where people talk to one another, and because they communicate, they can better understand each other.
The way forward for Nigeria is to everybody to take a step back, appreciate what Nigeria is and the historical role that Nigeria should be playing.
We need to put in a kind of education that can put food on the table.
Some Nigerians believe that lessons have been learned.
We need to preach peace to our followers.
We need fairness. We need justice. We need equity. We need tolerance.
Now that the State Panel of Inquiry and Restitution has been inaugurated by the state government to investigate cases of police brutality, some notable Nigerians want the team to be thorough in its investigations.
We have a lot of respect for the chairman of the panel, that she will be honest, she will be truthful. Not only we in Lagos want to hear the results, the whole world.
We need to be looking at building an economy based on a strong society, a society where the quality of life and the sanctity of life is what is most important.
Nigeria remains the pride of Africa and having a youth bulge of about 60% in her population, harnessing potentials of these youngsters, respondents say will place the nation on the path of recovery and prosperity. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
Beyond the violence and other opportunistic crimes that attended the recent NSAS protests across the country, the agitations offer the country a unique chance to reconsider the call for state police as part of a wholesome police reforms. Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dakpo Abiodun, stated this in Abeokuta while addressing a stakeholders meeting on NSAS protests. Details in this package.
Convened with the objective of sustaining peace in Ogun State in the aftermath of the recent NSAS protests across the country, the stakeholders meeting had in attendance traditional rulers, religious leaders, youth leaders, civil society groups, community development councils, and top hierarchy of security agencies in the state. The state governor, Prince Dakpo Abiodun, who led government delegation to the meeting, applauded the peaceful conduct of youths and security operatives in the state, which he said did not allow the protest degenerate into violence and wanton destruction of properties. The NSAS protest, the governor notes, has brought to the fore some germane questions about police system and administration in the country. The Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of Southwest, Adeleye Oyebade, told the meeting that management of the Nigerian Police Force is now poised to bridge the gap between the public and its personnel, using the community policing strategy to restore the trust and confidence of Nigerians in the law enforcement agency. The meeting also highlighted the need for Nigerians to refrain from posting or sharing inciting statements and video clips that can fan the embers of disunity and discord on the social media. In Abeokuta, Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
Still talking about talking peace, stakeholders in conflict management are beginning to engage youth on how to entrench peace in the country. Global Peace Foundation Nigeria took the message to representatives of youth organizations in Garaki, Abuja, where they advised them to give peace a chance. Austin Ayabe reports.
Events in the country in the past 2 weeks were not pleasant, but rather a setback to the socio-economic and political developments in Nigeria. What started with a loss of confidence in a section of the police force snowballed into wanton destruction of lives and properties in some quarters. This development must stop as Global Peace Foundation Nigeria appeals to youths.
If you young men will appeal to your colleagues, telling them that, look, there is no government, you are government.
Try as much as possible to preach peace. We need to love one another. We cannot continue the way we are going.
You've said all your grievances, and the government has noted that. So you keep your fingers crossed and be watching then on the response.
Youths who comprehended the message pledged to go back to communities to serve as peace ambassadors.
The foreign investors, when they find out that there is no peace in a country, they will withdraw all their investment.
Let's stop all these protests. Let's find a way of reaching the government.
We have to change it based on our own perspective and behaviors. If we try and change ourselves, I think, inshallah, God will see us through.
The peace advocacy embarked upon by the organization will go around the country. In Abuja, Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
To security matters, troops of Operation Fireball under Operation Lafia Dole with support from the Air Task Force have killed 22 terrorists in a counter-attack in Damboa, Borno State. A statement by the Acting Director of Defense Media Operations Brigadier General Bernard Oyoko indicates that the terrorists met their Waterloo when they attacked a fortified Nigerian Army supercamp in Damboa. Brigadier General Oyeko notes that 2 gun trucks were destroyed by own troops, while 1 NSV anti-aircraft, 2 rocket-propelled grenade tubes, and 4 PKT machine guns and other arms were recovered from the joint operations. Let's talk trade. The World Trade Organization has officially reacted to the rejection of Nigeria's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's adoption as candidate by the 2020 Director General Selection Panel. Adebola Brooks-Lynn Sunday has the details.
The organization's efforts to select a leader and chart a new direction for the global trade regulator hit a roadblock after the United States vetoed the bid by Africa's frontrunner, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, to be the WTO's next Director General. A key group of WTO ambassadors proposed Africa's Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala to be the next head of the World Trade Organization.
Candidate, as recommended by Chairman Walker, is Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala of Nigeria.
But the United States said it could not endorse her.
He said that she had, by a wide margin, the most preference, that she had wide support across regions and across levels of development, LDCs, developing countries, and developed countries. They said that she had had these since the very beginning of the process.
Spokesman for the Global Trade Organization, Kate Rockwell, said a date has been set aside to put her candidacy to a General Council of the WTO for endorsements. United States loan resistance to the global-backed Okonjo-Iweala opened the new possibility of months of wedge over the selection process and more diplomatic maneuvering with trade partners like the European Union. In a swift reaction, the African bloc, a group of 43 African countries within the organization, joined majority to oppose United States veto power. Out of the WTO's 164 member countries, 114 have now explicitly called for an immediate end to the U.S. veto. Adebola Brooks-Lynn Sunday, NTA News.
Well, we can only wish her the best of maneuvering and good luck.
The NTA, more reports with Joseph in Abuja.
Kemi from my Ibadan Network Center there. President Muhammadu Buhari spoke on phone today, Thursday, with the Royal Majesty Alayelua Oba Dr. Rilwanu Babatunde Oba of Lagos. The president conveyed his warm greetings and best wishes to the Lagos ruler on the occasion of his 77th birthday. He again commiserated with him on the recent episode of violence that led to the loss of lives and property in Lagos. President Buhari recalled his long association and friendship with the Oba and appreciated the personal role that the latter has played in nurturing the peace and development of Lagos State and nation as a whole. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Service Matters has urged the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation to declare vacancies in the Federal Civil Service to accommodate Nigerian graduates idling on the streets. Chairman of the committee, Sani Bala, made the appeal when the head of service appeared before the committee to defend the 2021 budget. He said the huge sums of money spent on multiple youth intervention programs should be channeled for this purpose. John Yaku has more.
If we are talking of crisis in this country, you can see how the youth are ravaging everywhere because of employment. Most of those people on the street are graduates.
The head of the civil service of the Federation, on the other hand, appealed to the committee to prevail on the FCT administration to rehabilitate the Federal Secretariat as provided for in the 2020 budget.
Early in the year, I went to the Minister of Finance, put pressure on her. Because of the pressure, she released 2 billion to FCT specifically, and she told them this is specifically for rehabilitation of Federal Secretariat.
The detail we had from you is that the FCT has a lot to do when it comes to that aspect. So we'll do all it could by going to the FCT to meet the minister. We clerk, he should prepare a letter to the FCT minister telling him that the Committee of Public Service Matters will want to sit with him on some vital issues. And then if he gives you the time and date, we will fix some few members to be there to ensure that those money will point at him at the 2 billion that was appropriated in 2020, and then the 1.5 million domicile in the FCT now. And if there is any room for it to be transferred back to the head of service, or if else they are going to do the work as stipulated in the budgetary allocation.
Some of the projects seeking approval in the 2021 budget of the service are the implementation of the personnel management system in place of the annual performance appraiser, completion of the digitization of the civil service, and the annual training of 100 civil servants in the private sector for more creative and enterprising public service. In Abuja, John Yaku, NTA News.
Let's take you to Lagos State, where the third mainland bridge is to be totally closed for a second time this month for another 48 hours, beginning from 30th of October. The closure is necessary for the second phase of casting and placement of expansion joints, as Dr. Nogemi tells us more.
From the initial plans of the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, this section of the bridge where I am currently standing, that is from Adeniji to Iyanoworo, is actually supposed to have been completed as at the 24th of this month, while work will then have moved to the other section of the road, which is from Adekunle down to Adeniji. But as it is, work on this section is yet to be completed, as the Federal Ministry of Work says the second batch of total closure of this section of the road is expected to commence from the 30th of October up to the 1st of November. That's midnight Friday 30th to the midnight of Sunday the 1st of November.
Many motor always follow one way. You know there's no last mile, that's why we look at wash them.
And they say this one is 3 months, this side is 3 months. So it cannot be possible. So we don't know actual time they will finish this road.
A statement by the Commissioner of Transportation, Dr. Frederick Oladende, actually states that previous alternative routes remain the same for road users to utilize during the period of this second closure, while LASMA and other traffic management agencies would be on grounds to direct traffic for easy vehicular movement. And while while the state government expects full cooperation from motorists during this period, a lot is riding on the presence of security agencies who have not been on this stretch of the road for a couple of days after the protests.
In Lagos, Dr. Okuyemi, NTA News.
House Committee on Telecommunications has called on agencies under its supervision to comply with the committee's recommendations in executing its budgetary provisions. Chairman House Committee on Telecommunications Akim Adeyemi made this known during an oversight function to the Nigerian Telecommunications Commission (NCC) in Abuja. Omenka Amarachuku completes the report.
Separation of power. Each arm of government performs its constitutional function without interference. It is in view of this that the House Committee on Telecommunication is on oversight to assess the budget performance of NCC.
We adopted oversight to enable us to scrutinize the activities, action of government to ensure their legitimacy and to make government institutions accountable for the policies, performances, programs and decisions for good governance and advancement of democracy and well-being of the citizenry.
Executive Vice Chairman of the Commission, Professor Omar Garba, reeled out the growth recorded by the Commission.
Over 87 million Nigerians have access to what we call high-speed internet, meaning they can access the internet or download from the internet at a speed of minimum 1.5 megabits per second.
The Commission has issued various directives to mobile network operators with respect to rollout data and forceful subscription to ensure that consumers are not subcharged by market forces. In Abuja, Omenka Amarachuku, NTA News.
The African region is said to have more than enough energy resources and many more yet to be discovered. For this reason, energy experts converged through a webinar to map out ways the African continent can close the $50 billion per annum investment gap in Africa's energy sector to improve electricity generation before 2025. Elizabeth Morier reports.
An African Development Bank study shows that investment needed to close the electricity deficit in Africa is estimated at an annual cost of 35 to 50 billion US dollars to achieve 10% urban electrification and 95% rural electrification by 2025. With most African countries having a target of achieving universal electricity access by 2025 and 2030, African countries are beginning to strategize to actualize the goal, and this formed the essence of this webinar.
Why we put in place or we revise the PPP law and make sure that the regulatory framework is attractive.
I believe that we can definitely do something towards meeting the SDGs, but we have to do things differently. We have to have more cooperation, more collaboration. We have to have a coalition of similar like-minded people.
Energy experts drawn from within the continent unanimously agreed that private sector partnership is critical to meeting the targets.
You need to have a strong corporate governance. I think that is very key because without that, investors from across the globe will not feel comfortable.
Enabling market for investors and DFIs, promotion of local materials, and sound regulatory framework were part of the recommendations made by the Zambian Energy Ministry. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
A new board that will drive the implementation of federal government policy on standardization of electrical installations and metering in the country has been inaugurated. Minister of State for Power, Godi Jedi Agba, says government is worried over the infiltration of substandard electrical equipment and poor maintenance of power installations and tasked the new board of Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, NEMSA, to address the technical lapses in the power sector. The minister urged NEMSA board members to enforce all regulations that will ensure efficient production and delivery of safe, reliable and sustainable electricity supply, as well as guarantee safety of lives and property.
Help in the management of the agency for us to move forward and achieve the goals and objectives of Mr. President.
So, and the way forward to is that NEMSA, like I said, is growing. NEMSA, we have 3 meter test stations now. We are building 3 more. We have 15 inspectorate offices. We have actually established additional 4, which makes it 19. And going forward, NEMSA is going to actually establish more.
Suleiman Yahaya is to chair the new board of NEMSA. France and Germany announced a 4-week lockdown just as Taiwan hit 200 days without local transmission of COVID-19 infections. Let's join Uche Ugochukwu on the global update.
We begin from Europe, where 2 of its biggest economies announced lockdown in response to spike in coronavirus cases. French President Emmanuel Macron said his country will begin a 4-week lockdown Friday. His declaration came hours after German Chancellor Angela Merkel also announced a 4-week nationwide lockdown next Monday. The Czech Republic now has the highest rates of new coronavirus infections and deaths per capita in the European Union, according to the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control. Meanwhile, as countries in Europe report daily record high cases, Taiwan in Asia reached 200 days without any local transmission of COVID-19 infections. India, however, surpassed 8 million coronavirus cases after reporting 49,871 new infections in the past 24 hours. In Africa, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed 4 deaths and 147 new cases Wednesday. This puts the country's tally at 62,371. The discharged figure is 58,095, while 1,139 have died. On the whole, Africa has recorded a total of 1,761,134 infections. 1,437,396 patients have recovered from the virus. The world now has 44,957,905 positive cases of COVID-19 and 1,181,728 fatalities, as collated by the Coronavirus Resource Center at Johns Hopkins University as at 6 p.m. Nigerian time. That does it from here. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
Let's bring you sports now. The Tigers to begin 2021 AfroBasket qualifiers in November. Details at more on Sports Update with Ayodeji Makinde.
The Nigeria Volleyball Federation has backed newly elected president of Confederation of African Volleyball, CAVB, Hajij Butchra, to deliver effective leadership that would ensure sustained growth and development of the sport on the continent and beyond.
Nigerian Volleyball Federation will contribute its own quota towards the development of volleyball in Africa and support our administration. It is our desire that we will grow from glory to glory, and it is our desire that Africa will conquer the world. And we pray that she will continue to lead the CAVB to a greater height.
In basketball, the Tigers of Nigeria will begin their campaign in the 2021 AfroBasket qualifiers with a game against Algeria come November 27 in Rwanda, before facing the hosts on November 28 and finally Mali on November 30 in Group D. The top 3 teams will qualify for the competition slated for Kigali, Rwanda, August 24 to September 5, 2021. The Tigers are currently ranked 26th in the world and 1st in Africa. Meanwhile, in France, elite sports will continue despite a nationwide lockdown announced by President Emmanuel Macron, according to Sports Minister Roxana Maracignano. This comes as a welcome news for France's top soccer league, Ligue 1, as well as French rugby, with the national side set to host Ireland on Saturday in their Six Nations final, while Paris Masters tennis tournament is also due to begin on Monday. With sports updates, Ayodeji, Makinde, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has commiserated with veteran broadcaster and former Director General of NTA, Mohammed Ibrahim, over the passing of his son, Aminu Mohammed. In a message to the former Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and Nigerian Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, at different times, President Buhari told Mohammed Ibrahim, who is the Makaman Ringim, that he is deeply touched over the death of the young man, praying Allah to grant the deceased Al-Jannah. And President Muhammadu Buhari Thursday evening spoke with President Marc Christian Kabore, the president of Burkina Faso, to commiserate with him and the nation following the demise of the president's 90-year-old father, Bila Charles Kabore. The president described the deceased as an outstanding leader who cared for all and devoted his life towards the progress of the Burkinabe nation and its people. He prayed God to console the family and the people of Burkina Faso. Bila Charles Kabore served as Minister of Finance in the 60s and was also a board member and vice governor of the Central Bank of West African States. And just before we go, let's quickly take a look at the weather forecast.
You could join us. We should see some significant change in our weather transition as we expect the entry of fresh dust plume from our source region within the wee hours of the morning. This should keep the north under dust haze conditions. Horizontal visibilities, however, should be poorer to the northeast than the northwest. But towards the evening, we expect poorer visibilities across the board. We expect the central states of Niger, Kaduna, Plateau, and Taraba to be the southernmost reach of this dust.
Well, congratulations. So I'm going to hand over the mic to the MD of Studio 24.